Hi everyone, welcome back to our session. Just give me a minute, I'll be sharing my screen. Are you able to see my screen and able to hear me? Could you please confirm on the chat window? Oh, there is no chat window. Anyone confirm? Are you able to see my screen? Yes, okay, thank you. So in the last session, what we have seen is the arrays and objects. So today we will discuss about the functions. So we are writing the code all over. So whenever it is useful, so just like we are not implementing on a block wise, and maybe the code will repeats here and there all over the places in your script. So to avoid repeating the same code all over the places, we will be using a function and to wrap that code and reuse it. So mainly this functions is a block of code to implement the code reusability, which is like we can make use of this piece of code on and on by passing different arguments and different data, and we'll be getting it over. So this is the syntax like function. How do we declare a function is like function will be declared with the function keyword followed by the function name and the parameters, which is like we have to define the parameters within the parenthesis of the function name, and the block of the code followed or delimited within this curly brackets. Okay, so that is what to declare a function. We use the function keyword followed by the function name and a list of parameters in the parenthesis. The function body follows in the curly brackets. So to use a function, we need to have to call it. So without any calling, we can't use that function, right? So calling a function is also known as an invoking a function. These are the technical terminologies using for to call a function or invoking a function. And to call a function, we have to use its name followed by the arguments enclosing in the parentheses. So which is like your function name is this, and you are having the parameters, and this function name is this, and arguments will be you have to pass like this. Let's say simple examples over here so that we can understand better. Okay. So the function, for example, I'm just making use of this function without any parameters, and I'm just making use of this console.log to say some hello for this function. This is function declaration. So if you want to call the function, you need to have to call it either in this script file or in the HTML when we are using the HTML event attributes. So that we will see like button on click kind of thing. Those we will be seeing little later because we haven't discussed the event handlers now. So I'm not using any buttons and clicking on that and it will be coming. I'm not using that because we are studying that um, just a core JavaScript. So I'm not going with that event handler. So when we are discussing the DOM part, then we will be surely, take you to that particular this event handlers. Okay. So here, if you can see, the hello is called, and if you avoid the statement, if you haven't called it, this will not call. So just like this is no output. So even though if you declare it. Okay, so this is a function without any arguments. Arguments means if I have to pass something like, for example, name, and in the console hello dot name and come up name, and I'm passing it. Okay, so I'm passing a string over here, then it will be like this. And if I pass some more like this, and I just change like this. If I change, if you can see that this same function will be used to display the other output, like which is like according to the arguments, it is changing that output. So that is how it will be the simple code reusability which we can make use of this, right? So likewise, when we have another function like this, for example, a comma b, and I'm just making use of console.log of a plus sum of 3 comma 4 or sum of 5 comma 6. Likewise, we are calling any number of times. It will whatever the numbers will be sending it off. So it will be calculating and it will be giving you the result. So this is a function, and when declaring a function, we specify a function. When declaring a function, we specify the parameters. When calling a function, we pass the arguments that are corresponding to the parameters. So in this case, here 3 and 4, when we are calling a function, we are passing it, right? So those are the values. Those are called arguments. And while declaring the function, we are specifying A and B, right? So those are parameters. So we are using the parameters and arguments interchangeably. So we need to have to observe what a parameter and what is a argument. Okay. So this is how. And a functions can return a value as well. So just like I'm just removing this one. And here I can return something like this. So I will be returning A plus B. In this case, this function is returning something, and a function, while returning, it should have only one return statement. We don't have to use the multiple return statement. But yes, if you are making use of a conditional statement inside it, and you can make use of it. But finally, a function has to return only one return, right? So we just have to make a note of it. So now I'm just making use of console.log of sum of 4 comma 6, which is like earlier we have used the console inside the function, but we are using outside the function declaration, and we will be making use of it. Okay, so this is how the functions will return a values. So functions return a values inside a function declaration. If we use return statement to return a value from a function explicitly, then it will be called as a returning a value. So we can return a value like this. So likewise, how we can also declare it to a variable, and we can also define, and you can use the function as an expression. So which is like the function, now it became into an expression, and we have defined a variable. So which is like in this, what it is going to do is like the sum whatever we'll be calling. So that is returning a value, and that is assigning to another variable x and another variable y, z, kind of. So if we know the parameters, we can see that how it will be and all. We can add those. So in one case, like we don't know the parameters, how it will be. So for example, there are a number of parameters it will be having. So if you are sending like this, and how can this will be calculated? So for that, what we have to do is like we will be having an a special um, object called arguments. So now if you can see, whatever the sum, I'm just returning that arguments, right? So arguments is an object, but it is looks like an array, and it is an instance of an object, not the array. But still, we can make use of this as an array, and we will be using it. Okay. So this is how the arguments it will be coming. So when we are getting the arguments, so we can deal with these arguments by using our loops and also, which is like I just want to return the sum. So for example, I just take that total as a variable, and I'll be using a for loop for this one, and I'll be using arguments dot length. So as we have the arguments is an array, so I'll be considering until the I less than the arguments dot length means how many variables I mean how many values I have, I'll be using over there. Okay, and then we have total plus equals to arguments of I. So I'll be adding each and every value to the total, and finally the result will be in the total. So I'll be sending this. Okay, and this one, so whatever this function, you can call any number of times with different parameters. For example, even though you are giving 2 also, it will display, and if you are giving any number, so there is no specific limit, you can make it use of for anything. It will give you the result like this. So this logic will works for you. So which is like if you don't know how many arguments you will be sending and how many parameters you need to have to define, then we will be making use of this arguments object to have that arguments inside our function declaration, and we can make use of that logic, and we are writing it using simple loop like this. You can use any other loop instead of the for loop, but for loop is most convenient and it will be useful. So it will give you everything at one time, like one shot. You can make use of it. Okay. So that is how the arguments object. So we can access an object called arguments that represents the named arguments of the function, and the argument behaves like an array. So though it is not an instance of an array type, so we can make use of it like this. So same, and I mean the similar example I have given over here also. And coming to a function can assign to a variable, so that if you can understand this one, so I have defined and declared a function add, and I am giving this add to an addition. So I'm just using the addition and whatever the fields over here. So I'm just making use of it, and I'll be assigning to the result. So you can use anything like this. So this is the same example. What I'm doing is var add equals to sum. Okay, so for the next time, so if I'm using it, or you can use it with both the names, so whatever it will be. So what I do is like, okay, like this I'm giving, I'm just sending some strings. If you can see here, there is a zero it is adding, and hello and Krishna it is adding. So it's just like it's just adding a strings like this. Okay, so just you just have to make a note of it because the total value is zero initially. The initially which is zero, it is happening. So which is like that is the reason it is coming with the zero and all. So if you are not defining anything, like you can have that total zero will not be added, and it will be like if you are using blank over here, then it will be like this. But these are all converting into strings. Right, so that is a simple logic. You just have to find if it is a string, then you don't have to use the zero or it will be like that. You need to have to make a condition of that. But my intention is to like the sum can be used like an add also, and you can use the both the names now, so which is like sum and add are both are valid over here. Okay, that is what assigning a variable to assigning function to a variable so that we can make use of that function with another variable name, whatever we are assigning to. And we can also pass a function to another function, so which is like, for example, I'm just defining a simple example over here. So function calculation of a comma b, and I'll be defining a function calling. Okay, so what it has to do is like it will be returning um, return function of a comma b. Okay, so this is the um, function. What I'm doing is like while calling, I'm just defining another function, which is add is to add the numbers a plus b, and we have function subtraction, which is a comma b, which is returning a minus b, and we have function multiplication, which is returning a asterisk b. And now these are all the things. So just like I just want to calculate something, and I just use some console.log of over here, and I'm calling the calc with 3 comma 4 but add. So I'm just using the add over here. So what is the output it will be? So it will be 7. So which is like adding call calc. I'm passing this add over here. So this add, it will be going into the function, and it is the calling add of a comma b or 3 comma 4, and it is returning a plus b over there. So likewise, I can use the calc function anywhere with different uh, parameters and sub multiplication and with the different you can see that whatever the operation you do, it will be like this. So what you are doing over here, so we are passing a function into another function to do something. Even I have used in the return statement, or else you can use it in your code and you can return some value from there. It will be anything is fine. So I have directly using that return function of a comma b, so that the function, whatever the function we are passing it over here, then the result will be coming over there and it will be like that. Okay, so this is how the return function it will be. I mean return with the function calling from another function, it will be coming up. So now comes to like so there is another assignment. You can also do that, like you have to convert that centimeters into inches and inches to centimeters. So here is the simple logic, like whenever we have the inch equals to 2.54 centimeters, when we are converting that. So when we have the inches, inch equals to 2.54 into centimeters, and when a centimeter, if you want to calculate, it will be inch by 2.54. So if I'm passing a function centimeters to inches with the 10, it has to convert that 10 by 2.54, and it has to give me the right result. And if you want to convert the inches to centimeters with the 10, so which is like you want to convert into centimeters, you need to have to calculate with whatever the value into 2.54, and it will be like this. Okay, so that is how the in this assignment you can take care of it. And next comes to like anonymous functions, functions without names. So if you can see the simple example over here, um, so I'm using a function. So just like this don't have any name, and I'm assigning to a value because the functions which we are assigning, it should have some name. So without any names, we don't call it. So without any name, we can call it, but how we have to see, I will see in the um, next thing. So just like if you can see here, this function has been called like this. Okay, this is called as an anonymous function. Like function without names are called anonymous function. But I just don't want to declare this greet, and I just want to, execute this on its own. So without any name. So those are called IIFs or self-invoking functions. What to do is like we need to have to put this anonymous function within the parenthesis, and we have to attach the arguments parenthesis over here. So if you can see, this anonymous function is called. So likewise, like you can also define anything like this. For example, I just want to use a comma b, and I just want to use a the sum, which is comma a plus b, like this. And if I want to pass some arguments, which is like this, if you can see, the sum is 9 and it will be okay like this. So this parenthesis is the arguments parenthesis, and we'll be getting that parameters over here, and we'll be using that parameters like this inside that function. So this is as simple as that. Like we need to have to understand how we have to make use of it. So this is called as a self-invoking function and or immediately invoking function execution, which is called as the IAFA. The concept of functions invoking on its own without any call. So likewise, we have the recursive functions also. Recursive functions, how we will be using is like the function will be calling itself. So which is like, for example, in this C, if you can have this countdown is a function, and I'm passing one argument over here, which is 5, and the from number is 5. Okay, and I just want to, you know, print this. For example, here it is 5, and the next number I have taken as the variable over here, and the from number minus 1, so which is 5 minus 1, which is a 4. And if the next number is greater than 0, so next number is always like I think it is 4. 4 is uh, greater than 0, it will be coming the true. And now we are sending a countdown of 4 over here, which is like I'm calling the function with the same name itself, and it will be like this. So when I'm passing the 4 over here, and it will be coming around this way, and again we will be printing the 4, and here it will become 3, and 3 is greater than, and then we have 3, and again it will calls over here. I haven't put the comments. Okay. Now it will become 3. Now 3 becomes 2, and it is all true. And now it will be 2. It has to pass 2, and it will become 1, and it is true, and it is 1, and it will be 1, and it will be 0. So number greater than 0, which is not equals to, right, so it will become false, and it will not execute. So the printing of the console numbers, which is a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, is the output. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this is how the recursive functions will work, but you have to be very careful. If the condition is not satisfying until after some time, like you need to have to break it at a point, like or else it will go into a never-ending loop, which is very seriously affecting your browser to hang it out, and it will not, it will not respond. Right. So how the recursive functions will work like this, so which is like calling the function itself with the different arguments, and it will be like this. Okay. So that is how. And when it comes to, I can also do some calculation of the sum of natural numbers using the recursive functions. So, and next comes to like function with the default parameters. So functions, when we are defining the functions, we will be defining the default parameters. For example, if you are not function defining like this, for example, I have add a comma b and return a plus b. And while calling the function add, I have the parameters if it is okay. And if I am not using any parameters, so because I will be using the default values. So default values are 5 and 5, and it will be giving it the result. So which is like I haven't used any console statement over here. So that is the reason it is not giving you the output. Now you can see that it is returning a plus b, which is 10. And if you use this, if you are passing that any value, so 2 comma 3, I'll be getting 5. And for example, if I'm passing only single parameter, which is 10, right? And now you can see that 10 plus 5. The other value, what we haven't passed it, it will be taking the default value, right? So likewise, and there is nothing like you have to pass the first parameter and second parameter kind of. So if you are not passing the first parameter, then it will be directly taking it as undefined, and it undefined plus number, it will be a not a number, and it will be getting like that. Okay, so those are all the functions. Will be there are different types of functions, and the functions will be calling it as a function context. And next comes to like a method. So when we are defining a method, a function inside a object, those are called the methods. So methods are generally an object is a collection of key value pairs with when the value of the function is a property. I'm sorry. When the value is a function, the property becomes a method, so which is like an object is a collection of key value pairs. So in an object, if you can see the first name, last name, grade, first name is the property which is having the value. So here the value becomes the function. I'll show you in a simple example. So where person, I can take a person is this one, so which is like having the first name, last name, or anything like I will be using the name is name, and we have age is something around that. So I'll be taking a function, so which is like a greet is a function, and I'll be defining the greet function to a function like this. And if you have any other things and any other property, you can make use with the comma separated. And now this function can execute or can return anything like this. So which is like console.log of hello, it will be like this. Okay. To access a function, we can simply call with that person dot greet. So if you can see all these properties, it will be coming up. Properties and methods will be getting like this. Now you can see that greet it will be calling like this. And we can also make use of this with this keyword. So this references to the current object, and if you can see this when I type the this with the dot, and it will be giving you all those things. Now if I want to use the hello with this name, now you can see that whatever the name it will be, and it will be passing to this, and it will be executing. Right. So likewise, like we can do the person with the the this keyword inside a method, the this value references the object that invokes a method, and we can make use of that. So here in this example, also you can see the first name is Abhi, last name is Krishna, and get full name returning this dot first name and this dot last name, and it will be like this. Okay, so we'll have something around like we need to have to calculate the total number of marks. We just have to use the total marks, and the logic what we are adding the sum of all the values in a collection. So which is like you can use that and you can get it done. So likewise, the assignment for here is like you just get the student dot total marks and result and average. So which is this is similar to your previous example. So you just have to try that. Okay. And yeah, I'm holding it over here because it will be a confusion if you're not practicing it till after this one. Because constructor functions, function invocation, data properties are little more confusing. So what I have to, I just suggesting you to go through these promises and methods. So sorry, functions and methods. So functions are nothing but to write some code reusability code or a block of code to make it reuse. So we'll be using the functions. And if you define the functions inside an object, those are called methods. And functions will be having different types like anonymous functions, functions returns a value, and recursive functions, function passing to another function, self-invoking functions, all these things, right? So these are all the types of functions. All this comes into a context called function context. And in the function context, if you are defining, this is called as the function invocation. So if you can see, this is the function context, and we have discussed this function invocation. And when we are defining methods inside, functions inside an object, that is called as a method invocation. And in the next session, we will be discussing about constructor invocation and indirect invocation. Then we will be clearing about all those things. Right? So I'm holding it over here. So I'm now opening for you for your questions. If you have any questions, let me know, or else feel free to drop off. We'll see you in the next session. Any questions? Any doubts? You can unmute your mic and if you have questions and let me know. Okay, looks like you don't have any questions. So we'll be winding up the session here. Thank you. Thank you for today. Have a nice weekend.